Test, test.
All right, praise band, we are packing up and getting out of the way. Confirmation orientations in a few minutes. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to
me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Thank you, and welcome everybody to Confirmation Orientation tonight. For those who don't know me, I'm Pastor Jeremiah Holst here at Calvary. Glad to be back with all of you today and going forward. I've been looking forward to starting Confirmation up again this year for a long time, and so excited to be kind of on the cusp of doing that together. So tonight, what we're going to be doing is kind of walking through a few pieces of what Confirmation is, why do we do it, what does it look like here at Calvary, going through some nuts and bolts stuff, through the schedule stuff, talking through any potential questions you guys have. If you haven't registered yet, getting you registered, all of those pieces. And as people come in, they can join us as well. First of all, before we get started, there were 2 pieces of paper at the entrance over there. Hopefully you guys picked one of those up. If not, I invite you to go and grab one of those papers. One of them is the schedule for the year. The other one is those nuts and bolts that we're going to kind of talk through together. But before we jump into those nuts and bolts, I do want to talk a little bit about what it is that we're doing. What is confirmation? When we say confirmation, going to confirmation class, getting confirmed, what does that mean? Probably pretty important for us to know as we're diving into this time together. So generally when we talk about confirmation, we're talking about one of 2 different things. The first thing we're talking about is like Confirmation Sunday, getting confirmed, something that our this year's 9th graders are going to be doing in a couple of weeks. And why we call that confirmation is that it is, technically speaking, a rite of affirmation of baptism. It's an opportunity for people who were baptized, maybe some of them when they were really young, maybe some of them when they were a little bit older, but an opportunity for them to stand up and publicly say, this is something that I want to have as part of my life. Maybe I didn't have an opportunity to say it when I was a baby, but I want this to be something that is part of who I am, a very core part of who I am. And so when someone is confirmed, they are affirming their baptism, saying yes to the promises that were made for them in baptism. Now, from a Lutheran perspective, it's important to note that that doesn't mean that if someone's not confirmed that their baptism isn't effective or anything like that. Baptism is baptism is baptism. But confirmation is an opportunity for us to be able to affirm that. And it's actually something that all of us in worship do every time we confess our faith together in the creed and things like that. So that's one part of confirmation, is that affirmation of baptism on Confirmation Sunday. And it also makes you a member of a given congregation. There are 3 ways that someone can become a member of a congregation in the Lutheran Church. First one is baptism. If you're baptized in a particular congregation, you effectively and officially become a member of that congregation. Now, that of course can be transferred to another congregation, all those kind of things, but when you're baptized, you're a member. Second way is affirmation of baptism, confirmation. When you get confirmed in a church, you are then officially a member of that church. So, for those of you who are here from Ardagh Lutheran, for example, if you come to class here and go through the confirmation program, you will do affirmation of baptism at Ardagh Lutheran Church with Pastor Brigida because you're going to be confirmed into Ardagh Lutheran Church. For those of you who are members here at Calvary, you'll be doing that here and becoming, if you're not already, members of Calvary Lutheran Church. Yeah, all right. And of course, the third way you can become a member is through new member class. So that's the first thing we talk about when we talk about confirmation, is that affirmation of baptism. The second thing we're talking about when we talk about confirmation is what we're here to kind of get ready for tonight, which is confirmation class. And confirmation class is one of those things that we do to kind of get us ready for that first part, that affirmation of baptism. Makes sense that before we stand up and publicly say, yes, I want to have this as part of my life, this is a core part of who I am, that we have some background in that we have some learning and experience with that congregation, that we have some time to build relationships with one another. And so in the Lutheran Church, traditionally, usually during the middle school ages, there's a program of about 2 to 3 years called confirmation class, catechism, these times that we spend together. And so that's what we're doing here, is kind of a preparation for that affirmation of baptism. And here at Calvary, it's a 3-year program, usually grades 6 through 8, though of course if there's exceptions to that, I'm never going to turn anyone away to come and talk about Jesus. And we cover 1 year of Old Testament, 1 year of New Testament, and then 1 year of catechism, or Luther's small catechism, looking at the 10 Commandments, looking at the Creed, all of these things from a particularly Lutheran lens. And that's the year that we are in this year, this catechism year. All of our classes, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, all get the same material at the same time, but the year that you enter the program will determine like which order you do it in. So for example, this year 6th graders will get catechism, then next year 6th graders will get New Testament, this year after that will be Old Testament, and we just kind of go through. And so over the course of your 3 years, you get all 3 of those years. It just might be in a different order. It's what's the term? I forget what it's called. There's a term for it. The cohort system, that's what it is. Cohort system that brings us through that. And then in 9th grade, here at Calvary, we have our 9th graders who are interested in being confirmed, then confirmed that fall. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about confirmation, is those 2 pieces. Affirmation of baptism, the actual rite of confirmation, and the catechumenate, the study, the confirmation class that hopefully prepares us in a way for that time of saying yes to baptism. It's also something that is part of a community. It's not just the individual student, but it's part of our entire congregation. It's part of our family structures. All of these pieces, we want to be able to support our students in this, and it's not meant to be something they do alone, right? It's why a big part of what we do here at Confirmation, at least at Calvary and every other program that I've ever seen, is about building relationships. It's about being able to get to know both people your own age in those classes, as well as your small group leaders, as well as your Lent mentors, other people, other adults in the congregation, so that you have some other relationships besides just the pastors, just your parents, people you know and who care about you in this church family that we share together. And so a lot of what confirmation is building relationships. We keep the same small groups together as best we can, grades 6 through 8, with the same small group leaders as best we can, so that, again, they have an opportunity to build those relationships together. So that's, again, general philosophy about confirmation. Let's jump into this sheet that I have, not the schedule, but the one that says, Welcome Families, Confirmation at Calvary Lutheran. I'm going to go through a few of these points together. So, this lists a bunch of expectations that I'm going to talk through, as well as some things that you probably want to know. This is something that I'm going to be emailing out, as well as the schedule in digital form in the next couple of days, but just probably a good idea for you to hold on to this too, stick it to your fridge, have this available for you. So for students, things that you can expect and we kind of want you to know about, and our expectations of you as you go through this program, opportunity to learn and grow, discuss, and think. Something that is really, really important to me personally, and I think really important to a lot of us as Christians, followers of Jesus, is the ability to engage with faith on a level that's not just memorizing, right? Not just learning what we think of as the right answers, but asking hard questions, delving into those doubts, really thinking critically about these things that are important to us, because life has all kinds of messiness. I talked about this on Sunday, actually. But that's part of what confirmation is looking at all the things that life brings our way by asking questions about how our faith intersects with those points. So I really, really encourage us to, as students and as families and as staff, to encourage this idea of really discussing and thinking and asking those questions about the things that matter to us in faith. Receiving baptism. So kind of hard to affirm your baptism if you haven't actually been baptized yet. It's why one of the questions on the registration form is, have you been baptized? And if you haven't, if you're wanting to go through the full piece of rite of confirmation, affirmation of baptism, at some point between now and when you would be confirmed, we'll want to talk about being baptized. So that's also part of being a member of the church, is being baptized, being a participant in sacrament with the communion aspect as well. Behave appropriately. We're all here together to be learners, to be in relationship with each other, and so that's an expectation that we can have for each other, that we are respectful of each other in both the time that we share and listening to each other, asking questions together, and just walking with each other in this time of faith. Bringing materials. So each week when we gather for class, ask that you bring your Bible and a writing utensil. If you need a Bible, come talk to me. We have some available, both the Bibles that are the Pew Bibles that are free that we can give out to anyone that would like one of those. We also have some Luther Study Bibles, which I have one of myself that I really, really enjoy. These have some commentary stuff in them that can be helpful for when we read through. A couple of these available for sale as well. I think they're like $25, and we can also order more from Augsburg if you want those, but we do have the free option as well that everybody can have if you so desire. So we have the Bibles available if you would like to bring those. Completing a test. Every year we have a test on the material that we've learned, Old Testament, New Testament, and Catechism. It is something that I want to make sure is not stressful. This is different from like a test in school where it's kind of grading us and we can pass or fail it. You cannot fail these confirmation tests. They're not meant to grade you on what you know, because faith is not about knowing all the right answers. These tests are meant to kind of gauge for ourselves, what have we learned over the time that we've spent together? And I encourage us, when it comes to the test time, to take those together as small groups. So like a particular small group can sit down at a table and work on the test together, because again, it's about relationship building. We learn these things together, we experience them together, and we take those tests together. So that'll be coming this year after Easter, which is a whole other thing to think about. But yeah, so that's the test piece. Attendance and participating in not only class nights, but service nights and fun nights. Again, life together, life where we work for the common good and enjoy time together. Those are also on the schedule too. Completing in-reach and outreach service opportunities. So again, to be confirmed, it's probably a good idea to have you experience life in the church. If you're going to say yes to being a part of the church, we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to actually participate in the life of the church. There's a number of opportunities for in-reach. Some of the things that we do are acolyting. Generally, I will set up a schedule for all the confirmation students who attend here at Calvary to be participating as acolytes. And I send those out. I think I do it like every month is a different grade. So I think this coming month in October, I just sent out the schedule. It's this year's 7th graders, I think I sent it out to. And then next month will probably be the 8th graders, and then we'll start with the 6th graders and then rotate through that way. I send them out specifically to the class that has that month, so you won't see an email from me with that schedule unless it's the month for your family to participate in that. As far as other service opportunities, I really invite you to participate in all kinds of things that you would consider to be service. If there's something that you want to do, come and talk to me. I will say yes to pretty much everything. There are ways for us to engage with our faith in the wider world, and I want you to be able to be creative in how you see yourselves doing that. But we do ask for about 6 of those throughout the course of the year, each year, just to be engaged with that aspect of their faith too. And if you want to do those as a group, absolutely, we can do those as a group too. Participating in worship could also be doing special music, reading scripture, ushering, all of those things. There's lots of opportunities for that. Participating in worship services. Now here's one that I'm going to touch on down the next section too, but participating in worship services is not just for the students, right? This is one of those pieces where we invite families to participate together. One of the issues we had last year was we did have a number of students that were being dropped off for worship on Wednesday night by themselves. And that's kind of counterproductive from a couple different angles. So if we can, please don't just drop your students off for worship. If we want them to consider worship to be something that's important, it has to be important to us too. So please participate in worship with your kids as well. Can be Wednesday here at Calvary, can be Sunday here at Calvary, can be at a different church, whatever. But if we're going to be doing confirmation together, it's important to be in worship. Speaking of worship, we do have what we call worship notes. This year, they are this orangish yellow color. They change every year. You can find these notes at both entrances of the sanctuary, and this is just an opportunity for you to kind of reflect on the service. So there's questions on here about the scripture reading, about the sermon or the message of the day, things that we engage with our faith about, and we ask for students to do 12 of these per year. 6 of them at least, we ask for them to be notes that we do as a family. It could be all of them. You could do all 12 as a family, but that's another opportunity for you to have conversations about faith as a family group. So you can pick one of these up, fill it out together, having conversations as a family, note that it's a family note, and then stick it in the box, and we'll mark it off for you. So that's the worship notes there. And then, of course, for the 8th graders, those of you in 8th grade this year, raise your hand. Man, they're all skipping out. We've got a couple of you here tonight. So, statement of faith is something that we do in the final year of, I see you. There's a few of you back there. All right. Statement of faith is something we do in the final year of confirmation instruction, where we have each of our students, as they're preparing for that affirmation of baptism, to write a statement about what they believe at that point in time. And as I tell them, as we prepare for this, The only wrong way to write a statement of faith is to write it in a way that doesn't reflect what you actually believe. If what you believe is, I don't really believe any of this stuff, it doesn't make sense to me, and I don't really want it to be a part of my life, that's an accurate statement of faith, and I want you to write that down, okay? It has to be an honest thing that reflects for us, because otherwise there's no point doing any of this. And then as we write those down, and I give some support in like finding how we structure that and finding scripture verses as we get closer to those dates to write those, then we have them read in front of the congregation because, again, it's something we do together as a fellowship. And that's usually during worship during the summer. If you were here in worship during this summer, we got to hear quite a few really awesome statements from this year's ninth graders. All right, on to parent and guardian expectations. Have a desire to grow with your students. This is, again, something that we do together, and it is really, really so critical that we engage with this as a full community and as family units. Again, if this is something that we want to be taken seriously for our students, we want to make sure that we're doing that as families too. So please make sure that we are willing and able to engage with our kids whenever that might be taking place. Be active in the life of the church here at Calvary. Be active in the various ministries that are happening here. Again, not only to model for our students, but because that's part of what we do as a family of God. That's part of what we're teaching in confirmation is active life together. So I invite you to be part of that. Get your kids here for confirmation class, for all the other things. Love to have you transport people here because I got one card. It's really hard for me to pick up, I don't know, like 80, 90 people that we're going to have in confirmation this year. We do have the Remind app available, and there's a note about that later down on the list here. I use that a lot to get out notifications if we have to cancel or anything like that. You can also use it to let me know if someone's not going to be here for a given week in advance, so I can let the small group leaders know. I am going to be taking attendance just this year, just for no other reason, so that if someone misses like 4 weeks in a row, I can then reach out and say, something going on? Is there a reason that we're doing this? Is there a way I can help make this easier to get kids to confirmation? Things like that. Or email me, call me anytime if you want to ask a question or let me know if someone's not going to be here. Serving as a Lent mentor. Now, this is also a part of our confirmation program. Once we get to Lent, which this year starts on Valentine's Day, goes for 7 weeks, we don't have our usual large and small group confirmation classes. Instead, following worship, we have our confirmation students meet one-on-one or two-on-one with a Lent mentor, which is people who are involved in the congregation. We don't pair people up with their own parents, and we try not to pair them up with their own small group leaders, but other people in the congregation that they have about 15 minutes of conversation about a given topic that is put out for that night, usually connected to the worship service, although if they want to go a different direction and talk about something else, totally fine. Big part of that is, again, building those relationships in a wider group for our confirmation students so they have an opportunity to get to know some of our additional adults in the congregation. And so that means I need 70 to 80 Lent mentors every year. So I'm looking at you parents. Once we get close to that time, I might be giving you a call and saying, hey, could you serve as a Lent mentor to have a conversation 15 minutes a week with someone after church? So that'll be coming up again in February. And then again, please participate in worship services with your kids. Talked about Lent mentoring, expectations that you can have for us as your church staff and for the wonderful, wonderful human beings who have volunteered to be small group guides. It's up to us, and we are taking this job seriously to make confirmation meaningful and safe and relevant and fun. All of these things are incredibly important if this is going to be a relevant experience, both for our students and for our families. And so we will absolutely do the best we can to make sure that this is something that is a useful use of time. Oh my gosh, that's a great question, PC. So, as I've said, I'm Pastor Jeremiah. The wonderful human being back there who asked the question is Pastor Chris. And then over here is Brett Carter, who's our Director of Faith Formation, who we'll be hearing from in just a few moments. Oh, and then Samantha Melberg back here is our tech person who is going to be helping out with all kinds of running slides and videos and all kinds of sound, great stuff, and running our streaming and recording so that for those people who are not able to make it on a given week, we have an opportunity to at least see what was going on. So, great call, PC, on that. You do. All right, let's see. And then communication, let's see. We do background checks, by the way, on all our small group guides. So small group guides that are here, that's an every 3-year process. This coming week, I will be looking into our records to see which of you need to get re-up for that, and I'll be reaching out to get your information, and we can get those background checks taken care of. And then regular communication. I will do my absolute darndest to make sure that I get all relevant information out to you as soon as I possibly can. And if you have questions and you email me or call me, I will do my absolute best to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I know it's hard to make plans if you don't know what's going on, and so I really want to make sure to honor your time and your investment in this program as well, to communicate well with you that way. My email address is on the top of the sheet. It's also on the church website. Phone number for the church is listed on the back. Also on the church website. Get a hold of us any way you can there. And then our regular Wednesday schedule. So to talk through what things look like on a usual Wednesday here for confirmation. Wednesday is a big day at Calvary. Brett, what time does Kingdom Kids start? 3:15. So we got Kingdom Kids start at 3:15 on Wednesdays. Then the next thing that happens is 5:15 Calvary Alive meal. And this is an opportunity for anyone that would like to come and have a bite to eat before we jump into worship to come and be a part of that. Sit at a table, eat some great food, have some conversation with our fellow members of Calvary and members of the community here. That is also, by the way, an opportunity for folks to do those in-reach credits. We always need folks to help with serving that meal. And that's part of, I think I had a question about that on the registration form, that you can say, like, yes, I want to help serve with the meal. And we're always looking for folks like that. And so even if you didn't put it on the registration form, if you've registered already, let me know. I'd love to get you hooked up with that. So that's 5:15 for the meal. 6:15, we'll be having worship in here. It's a 45-minute worship service so that confirmation can begin promptly at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock is the hour slot that we're going to be having confirmation at this year. That is a change from last year. Those of you who are returning might recognize that. Last year it was 7:15 to 8:15. We decided just to go with round numbers. So 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock will be the schedule for that. Usually on lesson nights, how that's structured is that we have a large group lesson for the first half. Most of the time, that's led by me. Often we'll have someone else do it too. It could be Brett, could be Pastor Chris, could be Pastor Brigida from Ardal. But we'll have a mix of people who are going to be leading that large group lesson. Halfway through the hour, we then split off into our small groups, where our small group leaders will take our confirmation students to a different room all over the church. They have some materials to delve a little bit deeper into the topic of the night, have some more conversation, be in prayer together, and then at a conclusion of that time, about 8 o'clock, that's when you'd pick them up at the end of the evening. So that's kind of the usual schedule for Wednesdays. There are exceptions to that if you look at your other schedule sheet handout. Fun nights, tubing night, service night. There's a number of nights that are off because of MEA or conferences or other things like that. But that's the schedule that we currently have in place. And if there are any changes to that, I will be absolutely letting you know as soon as I can. Same with cancellations. If weather makes it so we can't have class, whatever it might be, Remind is always the best way for me to get in touch with you quickly. So I urge you to sign up for that. Again, we'll get to that on the back of this sheet. I'll also be sending out emails, but Remind is great. All right, I think that's the end of this sheet. So then, Brett, would you like to come up here and talk a little bit about the first part of the back of this page?
Hello. I am happy to be here. I'm Brett Carter, the Director of Faith Formation, and I think you can tell from Jeremiah that there's a lot of joy in teaching confirmation. And I want to make sure that that is all a part of what we continue to do with whatever else we do beyond this room. And one of the important things to me is that we move out into the other parts of the building and do other things, and we move out into the community and we do other things. And in fact, we leave town and go somewhere else, and we bring the joy that comes out of learning and out of growing in faith, and we spread that out into a further world. So we do things that have to do with building up our faith in other ways. So there were a couple people. The tallest one is right there. Mitch was in Milwaukee this summer. Who else was in Milwaukee? I know I've seen a few of you guys. Thank you very much. We had a great time in Milwaukee. That's one of the things that we do as part of our time in middle school is we take a trip somewhere. And this summer, we're going to go to Lake Traverse, South Dakota. It's not very far away, which is sort of intentional on my part because we drove a long way in an air-conditioned van, but it was nice and cool that week. It wasn't the next time I went in that van, but that won't happen again anyway. But it'll be fun to be close by and see what we can do on the way in that way. So I'm looking forward to that. You'll be getting information in the mail and through email and through whichever ways we can do it, and probably handed directly into your hands to sign up to be part of that trip to Lake Traverse, South Dakota, which isn't too far away again. And it's on June 9th through the 14th. Estimated to cost about $700. Hopefully we'll cut it down like we did last year to less than that. And we'll do fundraising and all the kind of things we do, as always, to make sure that the cost can be way less than that. It'll be a $100 deposit to be a part of that. We'll need adult leaders and youth to be part of it as well. So right now we're registered already for, I think I registered for 18 or 20, something like that. If we get to go beyond that, that will be great. So we'll have to do that soon because they'll run out of space. Another couple of things that happen in the summer are Bible camp happens, and that may or may not be your experience, but I hope you'll think about it. Even if you've never had a chance to be a part of a Bible camp, it's a great way to spend a week in the summer. It's an amazingly fun thing that brings you into connection with other people that you've never met before, who have some of the same questions that you have, that Jeremiah was talking about, and you get to have those late into the night. And sometimes you'll be talking with people from all over, depending on where the camp counselors come from, that really have the same questions you do, and that'll be really a great experience.
My Bible camp experience is a big reason I'm a pastor today. Is because
You were a worker at a camp.
I was a camper, and then I was a volunteer, and then I was a worker for a few years. Like, it really was formational in my faith.
Yes, sure. And I missed out. My week of hockey camp at Bemidji State, I'm not sure had the same level of experience, but it was still a good experience for me. But I have been to camp as an adult many times and really enjoy it. So that's coming up. The other thing that happens in the summer, we had an amazing vacation Bible school. Seems like just last week, but it was actually quite a while ago already. And that happens in August. Oh, by the way, camp, there'll be a big brochure that comes out. We'll make sure we'll do a better job this year of getting it out to all of you, and maybe even coming and finding you and talking about it, so we have some chance of all of us going, some of us at the same time, which is pretty fun. The other thing we do is Vacation Bible School. We had some great helpers. In this room, there are some helpers that helped with middle school, or with Bible school, and that's really important. It gives you a chance to be a part. Kids get a chance to be a part of the helping team that makes a really important faith experience happen in the summer, in the beautiful weather sometimes, in the rain that I predicted wouldn't happen, but it did, and in the great time that we have in VBS, which is just a whole different experience for us. And then the thing that's August 5th through 9th, not that you need to know that right now, but it's coming up. And then the very first thing that's coming up, which is the last thing I'm going to talk about, and the first thing you'll get in the mail from me or in your hands next week from me, is there is a middle school youth gathering with all the other churches in this synod available to go to that, and that is at, I forgot the name of the camp, Luther Crest Camp in Alexandria, Minnesota. It's the weekend of November 17th through 19th. We're trying to work with First Lutheran and see if we can coordinate which days we're going to go. It's a one night overnight, so it's not 2 nights like it looks like. We're going to pick either Friday to Saturday or Saturday to Sunday. That'll be, by the time we meet again next week, that'll be finalized. And that's another great experience. The band leader is right there in the back. There he is. So we just get to follow along wherever you go, and that will be super fun. There we go. So if you're available that weekend, either as an adult or a kid, we want you to be a part of that. And then just you mentioned service nights, tubing, that kind of stuff. When all of those things come up, we're going to do that together with the high school kids. We're going to get the whole youth of our church together and do those things as a group and have a good time. And those are just wonderful chances for us to really experience what it means to be the church together, more than just in this room. So I'm really excited about that. I hope you are too. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. All right, a couple other things on this page for us to go over. Other happenings, acolyte training. I talked a little bit about what it means to be an acolyte, helping out during worship with the candle lighting, with communion. We're going to be doing that in the very first part of next week's class, just to give our new folks an idea of what those responsibilities entail. One thing for parents to know is that when you drop kids off, well, not drop them off, but when you bring them to worship and they're good to go, get ready for acolyting, and you come and worship, is that you want to send them over to the sacristy, which is the room just on the far side of this wall. I'll meet them over there and get them ready for acolyting for that worship service. Again, baptismal instruction, first communion instruction. If that's needed for any of you, feel free to talk with me about that. Otherwise, I'll be reaching out as we get closer to that 9th grade year to see if that's something we want to look at doing. Okay, last list of items here, the to-do list. Now, registration needs to be completed every year. Right now, as of about an hour and a half ago, I think we have about 65 registrations. Of those, more than half are 6th graders. So I know that's my returning 7th and 8th graders that I really got to get on here, that are kind of slacking off. Everybody needs to register. That gives us the most up-to-date and accurate information so that we can make sure that we're getting the information that you need to you with the correct phone numbers and email addresses and that kind of thing. That form is available on the website. I've got the link there to where you can find that. We also have that available in paper form. If you'd rather do that, I have some here tonight that we can take a look at afterwards, or you can always pick them up in the church office as well. Get access to Luther's Small Catechisms. As I mentioned, this year is the year that we're looking at the Small Catechism that Martin Luther put together to talk about what things like the Ten Commandments, the Creed, the use of communion and baptism have to do with our lives, and that's what we're talking about with the Small Catechism. So I do have some print copies of these available for $1 if you want one of those. I do, however, recommend the use of the free app that Augsburg puts out. I have it on my phone, and it's fantastic. Gives you access to everything that you would need from the Small Catechism, really easy to navigate, and I put the website for that on the sheet as well, just so that in some way, shape, or form, you have access to the Small Catechism week to week as we study this together. Program cost. We look into have the cost be $25 per student this year or $50 for a family, whichever is cheaper. For those of you who are returning, you'll probably notice that is significantly cheaper than it was last year. We really want to make the financial aspect of this not be a burden. This is something that we think is really important, being able to be in this time of relationship building and education together. And so we're really trying to make it so that that's not a deciding factor for whether or not someone can come. You can get that to us either through checks. I got a bag that I can collect those tonight, through Rebel Give. And there are scholarships available. If that is too much for your family, absolutely we can take care of that for you. Just let me know, either on the registration form or talk to me about that. And that's mostly to defer the it's entirely to defer the costs of the program as far as materials and that kind of thing. Okay, so sign up for the Remind app. Here's what I've been talking about for a while here. Each of the classes has a different class code that you'll see there that you can sign up, 6Confo24, 7Confo24, or 8Confo24. For those of you who are returning who are already part of the Remind app from last year, what I did was just migrate the previous groups into the new groups. So if you're already signed up, you shouldn't have to sign up again. You can try, yeah, Chris? Oh, finish what I'm saying, okay. But for all of those who are not already signed up, I really, really recommend it. Again, it's an easy way for us to be in communication about things that are important. Yes, PC? Oh, great question. What's the cost of dinner, that Calvary Alive meal that I was talking about? So, and don't quote me on this, maybe you could quote me on this. I think it's a $5 for individual suggested donation and $20 for a family. Am I remembering that correctly? I'm asking the new guy. I'm seeing some nods from the folks up here. Great. So that's the suggested donation. There's a basket out when you come for that. I'm not going to be kicking anybody out for not paying the meal, but that's what we asked for, to defer the cost on that as well. So great for bringing that up. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, and then I'm giving you your first homework assignment for tonight, and that is for your family to have some time to be in conversation about this thing that we're calling confirmation. Talk together as your family, as your household. What are some of the things that you're excited about for confirmation? What are some of the things that you might be a little nervous about for confirmation? What are you looking forward to? What are you not looking forward to? And then take some time to pray together. We've included a sample prayer. You don't have to use that, but we, again, really want to have this practice of being in prayer together. This is life that we share, and a big part of that is being in conversation with God, not only individual, but as families. So I encourage you, as part of this first homework assignment, to do that as families. And then hold on to this sheet, because this is a helpful reminder of all the things that we've talked about tonight. Again, I will be emailing out a PDF, both of this and of the schedule, to all the email addresses that I have for the people that have registered, but paper copy is always helpful. Okay, 7:39-ish, I think that's not too bad. I think that's all the stuff that I really wanted to go over tonight. If you have questions, if you would like to talk with me about any aspect of this, if you want to get a registration form or pay the program fee or look into getting a Bible or anything else, you can feel free to find me up here. Otherwise, thanks for coming, and we can't wait to see you next week. Have a great week.